On this episode, I have a very special guest, one of India's most inspirational young political leaders, Kalvakuntla Taraka Rama Rao, or better known as KTR. Mr. Minister, thank you so much for joining us on this show today.
Nithya. Thank you for having me.
When I talk about your political journey, a fascinating one from the IT industry in the United States to hardcore Indian politics, was that just a bypass of sorts, and is politics actually in your blood?
Well, of course. I mean, I'm a blood relative of the Honorable Chief Minister, so I think, yeah, the pun is quite apt. And yes, it has been a calling for a long time. Ever since I was growing up as a child, obviously, watched my father in awe of what he's been doing. He's been in active politics for the last 35 plus years, so I've watched from close quarters. And anybody growing up in a politician's family, you know, like a doctor's kid or a teacher's kid or a lawyer's kid, I think typically tends to get inspired and drawn. That's exactly what happened to me as well. So even though I was in the US, I was actually following everything that was happening back home very, very closely. So I came back in 2004. Joined the mainstream of the party in 2006, and for the last 11 years I've been with the party and the movement.
But that was always the plan. There was no doubt in your mind that politics is where you actually want to be?
Well, something that I read in JNU, this was about I think a long time back, you know, something I read on the wall on the campus, kind of really put me into thinking. When somebody had written saying, in politics decides your future. You decide what your future politics is. In a democracy, I think everything that we do, everything that we have to do as a citizen is essentially decided by the political system of the country. So even though you may like politics or may not like politics, I think it's imperative and it's the bounden duty of every citizen of this country to be either directly or indirectly involved and stay focused on what's happening, just in the sense of civic engagement. So as a politician's kid, as a politician's child, obviously I knew a little bit more than most of my friends, and obviously I understand the power, the ability to make a big change and create a big impact on people's lives. So therefore I think it was a natural calling.
Well, when we talk about the current Telangana cabinet, you're a man who dons many hats. Information technology, urban development, Panchayati Raj. How has the journey in the last 2 years really been?
It's been fascinating, I mean, because not many people get an opportunity to start off in a situation where the state is making a clean slate beginning. You're not burdened by legacy. You don't have to think about what anybody has done in the past because you're a new state. You're a startup state, as I keep calling it. And I think it's a brilliant opportunity for a young state and for a young minister like me who's exposed to the world, has traveled the world. I've been to more than 30 countries. And somebody who's really wanting India to progress, develop, absorb and imbibe from the best practices across the world. I think it's a fascinating opportunity.
Mr. KTR, you did mention startup state. Did you at every point growing up actually believe that you would see a two-state policy in your lifetime? When you talk about the Telugu-speaking Andhra Pradesh that you grew up in, to today AP and Telangana, did you always know that that was going to be reality?
Well, I would be lying if I said, I always knew it, because I don't think many gave a chance even about 10 years ago. Not many people took the slogan of the new state very seriously. But when the momentum started building, when people started rallying, and when I started noticing this fervent, desire among people to basically have their own state, of self-rule, of self-governance, I think, and in a coalition era like the one we live in today, I did understand that this eventually would lead to a political compulsion for anybody in the country, especially the national parties, the national coalitions such as UPA and NDA, and that's how it came about.
Was that a very challenging journey of sorts? Because you are talking about somebody who's a father to two siblings. So in a sense of sorts, AP and Telangana will always continue to be, sister states, for lack of a better term.
Absolutely, and we welcome that, because the point is, I think what we've seen after the bifurcation of the state and formation of Telangana in the last 2.5 years, I mean, just to draw a business kind of parallel, I think after the Ambani brothers have split, I think both of their combined wealth, if you put it together, I think they would probably be the richest family or richest group in the world if you put their combined wealth together. So I think that's kind of a similar situation for Andhra and Telangana as well, because Today, if you look at it in the last 2.5 years, a new city is coming up in Andhra.
Yeah.
New ports are coming up. More than 10 national institutes have come up. And Telangana has done exceedingly well on a lot of indices. So therefore, I think it's a win-win situation for both of us. I think 10 years from now, when the people of Telangana and Andhra look back, I think they should be able to say, this has served us well. This has been a good thing, a blessing in disguise. And what has happened is for the good.
But has the contra theory really ever puzzled you or, troubled you, given the fact that now you're talking about two states which will be vying for big ticket investment, vying and competing really for not just growth in an unprecedented manner, but also to prove that, we are here to stay and we are here to rule.
Well, Nithya, to be fair and to be frank, I think we're competing with the world. I think each of us, not just Telangana and Andhra. For example, when Apple was making a decision, weighing options between where to set up its development center, they were considering about 28 cities across the world. So it's not a question of face-off between Andhra, Telangana, or Telangana and Karnataka, or Karnataka and Maharashtra. I think today, as a state, as a city, we are competing with Manila, I think some of the Eastern European countries, Hong Kong, the competition is global. So to actually say that, we are vying for attention or we're competing with one state would be putting it in an oversimplified manner, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, you did mention Apple, and over the last couple of years in Hyderabad itself, we're talking about Facebook's global headquarters, Apple's map technology, when you talk about Uber's center of excellence. So, do you have a wish list of sorts really for Telangana? What are the other companies that we're likely to see investing in the state sometime soon?
Well, I would say I want Telangana to be the #1 IT destination, #1 industry destination, attracting all kinds of industries across the board into our state. I mean, I think it's good for the country. When states start competing, when states start trying to raise the bar, so to speak, ease of doing business as a quick case in point.
Absolutely.
We were number 13, we were ranked number 13 the previous year.
Yeah.
And we were rattled. We said, we have such a wonderful policy. We've been doing rather well. We've been able to attract good deal of investments. So where did we go wrong? Then we sat together, we really brainstormed, and we said, there are certain things we have to change, there are certain reforms we ought to bring. And that's how, in fact, after about 9 months of effort, we could move from 13 to 1. So I think it goes to show you, when states start taking business seriously, when states start taking reforms very seriously, then I think it only helps the country, because it really pushes up the bar, and I think it helps.
Well, the CEOs we have interacted with also believe that Telangana is probably the state to look at in coming years. If I were to ask you to outline 3 or 4 top features of the industrial policy of the state that actually will help in luring this investment, what crosses your mind?
Well, #1, we have what is called a self-certification. Today, to actually do business in Telangana, you don't need a clearance from the government. You can hit the ground running, and then you have to apply simultaneously, only for regulatory purposes, via an application online. The #2 thing I would say is, which is again unique for Telangana and no other state has it, we promise time-bound clearances in 15 days. And if we don't deliver on the 15-day promise, on the 16th day it's a deemed approval. It's an approval by default. No other state in India will tell you this. The third and last thing I would say is, we have what is called as, basically we take accountability very seriously. We have a promotion cell, investment promotion cell, attached directly to the Chief Minister's office. So any prospective investor coming into Telangana would be received right at the airport, brought directly to the Chief Minister or Industries Minister, which is myself, and have an interaction. An application is submitted online. And if there is a delay from our side, like I said, besides the deemed approvals, we actually, as a state, are liable for penal action. And our officers are penalized a sum of ₹1,000 per day for any kind of hindrances and any kind of delays.
Absolutely. Before slipping into a quick break, Mr. Minister, if I were to talk to you about how important, boosting entrepreneurs and ensuring that Telangana is a good startup state for, business practices is something on the top of your agenda?
Absolutely. In fact, innovation, I think, is the only way that industry and businesses are going to grow further, because we don't live in the same world that we lived about 10 years ago. I think innovation in every sphere of life, disruption in every sphere of life is the key word, is the mantra, and I think the business houses have realized it. Even the biggest business houses have realized it. Governments have realized it. And therefore, I think innovation really creates that level playing field and that platform where Indian youngsters can dream big, can think big and can come out with world, earth-shattering inventions.
Well, in conversation with Mr. KTR, but stay tuned, a personal glimpse into his life on the other side of this break.